Welcome to Kingdomize, the podcast, where we discuss how to see our lives and our world through a kingdom lens, how to infuse kingdom culture into our families, our workplaces, and our cities, as we all participate in the dream of Jesus to see his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven.
Hey, so welcome back to Kingdomize Global, the podcast. It is such an amazing day. I have all my friends here. All my friends. I mean, I only have 3 friends in the world, so the fact that I can get them in the same room, that's remarkable. But I'm here with Bruce Friesen, Bruce Mann, Ian Green, I'm Brian Beatty, and we are the Kingdomize guys. That sounds so cheesy when you say it that way. But I'm glad you're here, and we have started a new series called Kingdomize Your... Well, it's really everything. Kingdomize your everything. Today, we're talking about Kingdomize your business. And I'm going to say up front, so you know, we actually have a course, a 12-week course that we teach at Kingdomize called Kingdomize Your Business. And people are finding it incredibly helpful. And we're about to come up with a new course in the next couple of weeks. So let us know. After you hear us today, you're going to go, I need more of that. I need more of that kind of talk in my life for sure. So there you go. Guys, Kingdomize your business. So I'm looking around at guys that have done many things in their life, including run businesses. So I think this is going to be a wealth of excitement. So quickly, as you talk today, talk a little bit about your history in business and things that you've run. Bruce, man, I'm going to go to you because we could probably stick on you forever, ever, because you have run and, I mean, you are a builder guy. You just keep building everything. So Bruce, let's go to you. And then each of us are going to have a point that we want to make specifically about business. So talk a little bit personally and then talk about what you think is significant, Bruce, about business.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think sometimes I kind of grew up in a tradition where business was looked on with a little bit of skepticism, like, you know, what it in relation to, you know, our faith, right? At best, it was an endeavor that generated revenue, money that could then be given to the people who really do ministry, who really serve God, who, you know, so they were the ones who financed someone else's vision of what God might do. And I think we'd all agree that's a really narrow understanding of business. And that business can actually be a reflection of God's kingdom. When it's done with the right motives and with the right understanding of the impact it can have. You know, we won't go deeply into it, but the idea of capitalism, of generating wealth in its original form, was to bless communities, was to bless people. And it's digressed or evolved to a place where then it became so it starts out moral, then it becomes kind of amoral. It's just a thing you do to live, to make money, to make a living. And then in the world we live in today, sometimes people who are in business are viewed almost with skepticism, like they're just out to get stuff from everybody, to make wealth and take it from others. But generally, business can be a great expression of God's kingdom because it has all of the attributes of a community. It has purpose, it has meaning, it can have vision, and all those things. And so for me, it's just really being intentional, being aware. If I'm a business leader, being aware that my business can actually reflect the values of God's kingdom, can produce a good product or a service that benefits people. I can have a business environment, like my employee environment, where people are blessed, where they're able to make a living, to support their families, where they find, where the business community can be life-giving. And so, obviously we're not gonna be able to go deeply into that today, but I had to come to this place, and because I was in business and have had, been in different forms of business over the years, where you begin to see that you can actually see your business can reflect some of the attributes of God's kingdom and bless people in significant ways. Your vendors, your customers, your employees, your family, all of that the business community, the business endeavor initiative can be a great reflection of God's kingdom.
And Bruce, you were a builder. You were a carpenter
Yeah.
like JC, right? Like JC, you were just like him.
That's Larry Norman reference for
I
us
was
old
actually
guys. Yeah, when you provide a valuable service, product, or a service to people at a price that is fair, where the service reflect and the what's being charged is reflective of what you're contributing, everyone benefits, and those are things that I believe bring honor to God, and we don't need to feel like somehow we're second class citizens in the kingdom of God because we're not preaching on a Sunday or leading a ministry of some particular form. We're all, it's a level playing field. We're all in this to see God's kingdom and the attributes of God's kingdom, be evident in every area of life.
I think it's significant, as you said, that people understand that their ministry, if it's business, if that is their ministry, that's a significant part of our cities, right? It's a significant part of bringing the different spheres together, the different people together, intentionally to go, we honor that calling, we honor those in business, even though sometimes you're in business like I am, but I can't build anything. So I'm less like JC than you are, Bruce. But but business people can bring significant things to the city that is needed significantly. Really, really important. And so we want to honor that calling. And Bruce, I'll steal something that you always say, but you say we're not bringing down the other callings, other ministries like pastoring or missionaries, but we actually want to raise up all the callings to their divine nature or their importance in our communities, right?
Level playing field.
Level playing field. And speaking of that, Bruce Friesen, you've got a company near you that they have they actually call their business level ground. So how can that even happen? That's amazing.
They do indeed. Well, maybe I'll just, before I go into Level Ground, this company that a friend of mine runs, and it's an amazing organization. I will say I do have a history in business, and I was entrepreneurial from the time I was a young man. And so for a number of years, I was the president of MMFA. And the MMFA was the Manitoba Marijuana Farmers Association. Now, I was a self-appointed president because I didn't want to let everybody know that that's who I was. It was illegal at one time, So, but when I came to Jesus, I I started a roofing company, then a construction company, owned a lumber yard for a season as well. It was very profitable, but I would say I had a very dichotomous worldview that I'm making money to give to the church and give to missions. And I like the language that we are now hearing in many different places as business as mission, or we could say business as ministry. Rabbi Daniel Lapin has a couple of books just on business secrets from the Bible. And there's a few others, but I'm trying to think of the well-known guy that teaches on money all the time. He's one of the main sources that he looks at Rabbi Daniel Lapin's material. But my friend Stacy Taves, I'd love to tell their whole story because it's amazing how they came to the understanding that they have. But it's a massive business now of so many different products, but they work with the poor farmers all over the world. They started with coffee, but now it's multiple products of dried fruit, spices, rice, so many different things. But the objective is to remove all the middlemen and give everybody a fair price for their all their work and for what they're producing. But they're also doing it in the company. But the passage that they built the business on is Isaiah 40, verse 3-5. A voice cries, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, every mountain shall be made low, The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Now, this is Jesus in Luke 6, or actually Luke 3, 4-6. That passage is repeated. But really what it's talking about is it's talking about the inequity of the mountains and the valley. That if we're actually preparing the way for the Lord, so if you're a business person, you're involved in this area, you have to be considering everybody, those that you're buying products from, your employees, everybody in the entire system. My friend Stacy Taves just spoke at the Legislative Prayer Breakfast on Wednesday, 2 days ago. And in their business, they talk about uplifting everyone. He was doing it. He was speaking into the context we have in our Canadian legislature, what we call question period. We should really name it to accusation period and tear down period. But so it's really uplifting everyone. It's really looking at mutual benefit for all. And it's a culture that by what they're doing in the system, in the values based upon this passage of scripture, we have to realize the business is actually preparing the way for the Lord by taking down mountains, raising up valleys, and they are considering sort of win-win for everyone. So nobody's being exploited on any level. Not the customers, not the distributors, not the producers, not the workers. Anybody in the company can have a share. I could go on because I'm so impressed with what they're doing because they are living this passage of scripture. They are living it to the absolute max. And I think the Lord, his glory is being revealed just as it says that it's going to be as we do this. And I think we can do it in every single area of life, but we need to be able to understand how it applies to business.
Bruce, I kind of visited Level Ground too. And one of the things that was utterly impressive was he not only cares for the individual and cares for families and cares for the business process, but he's actually caring for the planet too. And so it was the first company I've ever been to where if the employees come to work on a bike rather than a fossil fuel vehicle, they actually get some kind of remuneration for actually doing that. Like, it's the most holistic company I've ever seen. It's absolutely blinking mind blowing.
Yes.
It's just inspiring to be with those guys for sure.
It's or carpooling as well. And I hope we're not getting into any environmental politics right now, but yes, they are really considering everything. And when you talk about this, man was given the first responsibility they were ever given was to cultivate and guard the garden, which is fascinating because we need to be able to see this. You know, we've got those that are focused on green, but really there's a reality of something of justice that's on the inside of them in this area as well. Because if you actually look in Revelation, you guys know what the final curse of the Bible is? Anybody know? The final curse is, I will destroy those who destroy the earth. So the first responsibility in the final curse, you can see the connection. So we actually have a responsibility to steward the planet, to steward the resources, and to be able to use it wisely instead of stripping it, instead of abusing and exploiting the planet. So they are excellent stewards. Even everything that they're doing within the context of the building, they have paid the price to be able to have equipment that there's a limited amount of emissions that are being put into the atmosphere by all of what they're doing. I mean, on every single level, this Level Ground company is bringing glory to the Lord. They're making straight his paths. They're really preparing the way for the Lord by their actions, even more so than their words. And so it's, if, I'd love to bring everybody for a tour someday, because for so many, when we have these discussions, it's all theoretical, it's philosophical, it's theological, but to actually find an organization on the planet that's living it to the max. I mean, I at times when I go through, I just weep. And Stacy has become he's probably one of my closest friends. Anyway, like I said, I need to stop being too excited and too possessed by this.
And if you want to hear about Level Ground Coffee, I felt like I could give a commercial right
Yes.
there. It's levelground.com. Stacey Taves, you should sponsor this show. That's what should happen. We've all been there, and it's quite amazing. Excellent. So, Bruce, man, I'm thinking of our multi-column balance sheet when we're talking about the environment. We're talking about these things, and again, speaking about Kingdomize Your Business, we cover this a little bit in our business course about being successful as a business person is more than just profits. It includes how your kingdom, your kingdom worldview, how you're investing in your community, in the environment. What else am I missing on that?
Well, we use that illustration of a multi-column balance sheet. Most companies will be able to show you a fiscal balance sheet. They have their assets and their liabilities, and there's a number at the bottom that represents health. But represents health fiscally. And that's an important column, obviously. But for the kingdom leader, the kingdom business leader, there's other columns that are just as important. The relational column. How are the those who are part of the business, the employees, the leadership, the executives, are there healthy relationships? Are there productive, life-giving relationships? There's a community column that says, are we actually benefiting the community, the place that we do business in? Is it a place where we are the net impact is positive, in what we're doing? There's an environmental column, as we've already said. Is my business destroying the environment, or is it is it doing the business in a way that's actually protecting and caring for the environment? We don't have to be crazy about that. What we need to be is understanding that we're stewards of what God has given us, and part of what He's given us is the environment. And so every column of this balance sheet has to be considered and held in as high value. So if you can imagine, a column for fiscal, a column for relational, a column for employee relations, a column for environmental impact, a column for customer relations. They all will have represent some kind of positive or negative, hopefully all positive. And so when you go, up and down, you get a number, and then across, you get another indication. If I'm healthy in all of these columns, then I'm a business that's actually reflective of God's kingdom values. If I'm in the negative in one of those columns, I need to look at it and go, how do I change that? How do I improve that column so that the net impact of my business that I'm leading is one that is promoting and reflecting well, God's kingdom in a very tangible and way that people can actually see. And that's just one of the things we use to help a business sort of do an evaluation, because you could be making piles of money. You may even have a healthy employee environment, but you may be destroying the environment, or you're making lots of money. You spend a lot of time not having a negative impact in the environment, but internally you're abusing your employees' time and talents and not rewarding them for the part that they contribute. So we need to be healthy in all of these columns, and that takes intentionality on the part of those who are leading the company, the owners, the executive team, whoever it happens to be. And so really a big part of this is simply being aware, that those who are in leadership really being aware of their responsibility to not just make money as a business, but to reflect and lead in a way that actually demonstrates the values of God's kingdom and the mission and objectives of God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's
Just to add into this multi-column balance sheet that Bruce Mann is speaking about, there's so many amazing references just in regards to God using a measuring line, measuring rod, scales, plumb line. He actually says justice is his measuring rod. This is Isaiah 28:17, and righteousness is his plumb line. So he doesn't look at just the bottom line of finances of where that is, but he says to individuals and nations or businesses in this context, but Belshazzar, when the writing was on the wall, you have been weighed on my scales and you've been found deficient. What was he found deficient in? Predominantly in righteousness. But so because of that, he wound up dying that day. I'm not threatening anybody's life here, by the way, but just to say we need to be able to realize scripture, God has instruments that everybody understood that we can apply to this multi-column balance sheet. So God is measuring much more than your profitability, than your success. And I'm hoping that none of us are found deficient and that
Yeah.
very
we
good.
really need
Very
his
good.
criteria.
Yeah, really good.
Excellent.
Yeah, the
Excellent.
bottom line's more than just numbers, right? So Ian, I want to come to you because you
Yes.
always bring something about our life and our families and our generations, and you actually bring a number of the presentations for our KYB, our Kingdomize Your Business course. So let's hear. I want to hear what you have to say about business in general.
So we've had a little business for about 20 something years. I probably unconsciously, even when I was leading what would be Orthodox mission ministries, I had a business mentality in terms of how we funded them, how we had an organized plan, how we whatever. We felt really strongly that God wanted us as a family to at least initially have an economic generational impact. I realized that was just a carrot because we actually can have a larger impact than just money, right? But that was the carrot that got us thinking. And we began to think about, well, how do we do that? And so we began to think about cash generating assets. And so for the last 20 something years, we have a portfolio of property, and that supported us in our work and in our ministry and has helped us to bless many people in many different ways over the years. But that got me onto a journey where I started to interact with other people who 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 were also displaying a generational thinking in how their business could not just last the founder and the owner, but actually could go beyond that. And one of my first experiences was when I was in Melbourne, Australia, and I met with a guy called Dan Daniels, um, incredible entrepreneur, inventor. Um, Now has companies all over the well, it has a company all over the world which is largely dealing with medical waste coming out of hospitals. And I was with him one day, and he was telling me his story. And a part of his story was he had started a plan. He had started to support some of our church plants in Eastern Europe. And he says, I was in prayer one day, and the Lord says, it's not enough. Dan, it's not enough. Like 20, 30 church plants a year, that's not enough. You have to think of 1,000. You have to think of 1,000. And so he freaked out and says, that's absolutely bizarre. That's absolutely crazy that anybody could think of a business supporting 1,000 church plants. That's just beyond reality. Then he felt the still small voice of Jesus into him. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. You have to disciple other businessmen with your same mentality. And there are people in your circle of influence, and I want you to make them multi-millionaires through the intellectual capital that you have. And he actually did that. He did that over a 3 or 4 year period. There were people within his influence that became multimillionaires and bought into his philosophy of ministry. That got me to one level, but what got me to another level, which was quite shocking, when I was in Lubbock, Texas, came across a company there, Bettenbau, and this is a tremendously kingdomized company. I mean, all that Bruce said about the multi-column balance sheet, it's there, man. It's manifested there in the flesh. But they weren't happy to contain it with themselves. But they have allocated resource and time that they now disciple other people, other business owners and other businesses to become kingdomized themselves. So a part of their mission is to kingdomize other companies. I thought, flipping awesome. What an incredible generational impact that's going to have. It's going to go knocking on forever and ever. And so I guess my excitement about the whole potential of businesses is, as everybody said, it's not just feeding our family, it's not just having a good life, it's not just looking after your kids, it's actually what can we add to the planet of God's kingdom as we're actually involved in a commercial environment.
Hey guys, we're almost done time, but I'm going to do two things. Bruce Mann, we would be wrong if we did not talk about alligators in a in a podcast, Kingdomize podcast about business. So I want you to give us a 30, 45-second alligator story, and then Ian, I'm coming back to you to wrap this up for the day.
One of the things that we do with Kingdomize is work with companies on faith integration, right? Helping the leadership, the owners of the companies, understand how their company can be not just bless them and their families, but bless their communities, and their business can become an expression of God's kingdom. So we had the privilege of working, and I spent some time with the alligator farm in Louisiana, which was kind of a unique setting for a guy from Canada. They raise, 100,000 alligators a year to sell for, the fashion markets, shoes, purses, and that type of thing. But what's excellent about it, you think, is that there's a conservation aspect to this. They harvest alligator eggs, bring them in, hatch them, and then return alligators back into the wild in order to maintain and grow the alligator population. So not only is it a profitable business, providing a product that, or a resource or raw material for for fashion companies or clothing and shoe companies or the companies that make purses, but they're actually improving the environment in that I could spend a lot of time kind of going into some of the nuts and bolts, but just a company that's very intentional about reflecting kingdom values, not just values, but kingdom expressions with the impact of their company. And we see God's hand of blessing on that. And hey, you can go into an alligator house and see these hundreds of alligators.
You can, and
anyway,
you can smell them too, not just see
you
them.
can smell them.
I'll tell you, for 2 weeks after being in the Wall Alligator Farm, I could not get the smell out of my nostrils. It sticks with you. It's a lovely, lovely smell. Wow. The Wall Alligator Farm, there you go. And they're the largest alligator farm in the world, right?
As far as I know, yeah. It's a pretty extensive organization, operation. Never kind of new for me, but you know what? It's a business, and God's blessing it. Because the ownership,
you did such a great job.
Desires that their company, reflects God's kingdom.
So good. You did a great job with that company. Really fantastic, and lots more to do there too, right? So, Ian Green, we're out of time already, but I'm going to you to wrap this up for us.
Guys, it's been great to be with you today. I trust that you've been helped, encouraged, inspired. Maybe some seed thoughts have been planted in your heart and in your mind concerning kingdomizing your business. You may have friends who are thinking or are beginning to think like this. Maybe take this podcast flick it to them. It could be a blessing to many, many more people. But look, what we want to say is this: as a group of people, Kingdomize Global, we provide consultancy services. We help companies at grassroots level to actually bring a kingdom culture, have a kingdom impact with clear kingdom metrics. But also we have a Kingdomize Your Business coaching course. It's 12 weeks, 1 hour per week, with plus 3 one-on-one coaching sessions with Dr. Brian. And we're about to do our 5th cohort, and it's going to be pretty amazing. And look, if you go to our website, kingdomizeglobal.com, there's a page there on Kingdomize Your Business, and there's a little click there. You can click. You can create an appointment with me or Brian, and we'll chat you through it, and we'll help you to understand if you're a good fit for the course, and we're a good fit for you. And so we're not out to sell courses. We're out to kingdomize people, kingdomize businesses, and kingdomize the planet. So if we can help you, please contact us.
Amazing. And while you're clicking buttons, you clicked one to get here today. Send it out to someone else. Why don't you click subscribe there and on our YouTube channel or Spotify channel? Why don't you go ahead and do that and send it to somebody else? Our goal is, as Ian just said, we want to kingdomize the planet. We want to honor those in all spheres of influence, including business. So it's been great to be with you today. We will see you next week on Kingdomize, the podcast.
Thanks for joining us today on Kingdomize, the podcast. Let's keep the discussion going throughout the week on our socials or on our website, kingdomizeglobal.com. Contact us today to see how we can walk together to see more of God's kingdom in your city as it is in heaven.